Hello and welcome to the Brad Davidson Podcast. Today's episode, I want to focus on the female metabolism. This is one of my favorite areas to learn about, focus on, and work with. And the biggest reason why is it's very complicated. And my industry has made it really complicated. And when you start looking back at the research and I start talking to more and more experts in this realm, we're discovering that so much of the original research was done on college-aged boys. For the longest time, we really believed that metabolism is just the metabolism. And so whatever would work for a male metabolism would work for the female metabolism. It was simple, right? It's all about calories in versus calories out. I still hear that all the time. Now, yeah, calories have an impact, but the metabolism is much more sophisticated than that. And when it comes to the female metabolism, there's a lot of things that impact it. There's a lot of things that impact the male metabolism as well. But I mean, let's think about this. Women bear children. The hormonal profiles of women are just much more intense than they are of a man's, and they fluctuate, month to month. And so all that has to be taken into consideration. So I think the greatest lesson that kind of woke me up to all of this early on was from a mentor of mine named Dr. Jade Teta. And I was seeing this. I actually wrote a book that was impacting this and that I didn't really understand why it was working so well. But then I learned and discovered that all the metabolism really is a stress barometer. And basically what's happening is it's assessing the stress going on inside your body and outside of your body impacting you. And it's letting you know, is it handling it well or is it not? And what we've discovered over time is that the female metabolism is much more susceptible to stress. Stress is a massive danger to the female metabolism, especially the second 2 weeks of the monthly cycle. Because think about it, the body every month believes that it's pregnant, and now all of a sudden there's this fetus that it has to develop and protect. So all the external stressors out there are more dangerous to you. So we're going to break this down today, and I'm going to share with you, okay, what do you do pre-menopause? If you haven't got to menopause yet, you're still having a normal hormonal cycles, what do you do? And then once you hit menopause and post-menopause, it changes. What do you do in those scenarios? And that's actually my favorite scenario to work with, is because what women at that stage of life are being told to do is totally backwards and wrong. And it's why it's not working. And ladies, I just want to tell you, it's not your fault. So often women in menopause and post-menopause are the hardest working women in the gym. They're so focused on their nutrition. They're doing everything they're being told to do at such a committed level, and it's not working. It's just because it's the wrong advice. So in this podcast, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into that and try to give you some great strategies you can begin to apply to use, because I believe you deserve to know this, okay? And here's the other thing is, oftentimes women are like, this is so weird that some man is teaching me about my male metabolism, and why are you so fascinated with this? And it's pretty simple. I have no emotional connection to what I think a woman should be doing. So I can only look at the science, the metabolism, and when I talk to the experts on this realm that are in the medical community, they're teaching me, I can just see it for what it is. I don't have any preconceived notion of growing up of this is what a woman's supposed to do, or this is how I'm supposed to eat, or food's bad for me. I don't have any of those emotional lies that have been told to so many women over the years. So I don't think of it that way. So there's no struggle for me to say like, oh, here's what stress doing to this metabolism. Here's the solution to that. Okay, so that's why I'm here, and that's why I like to think of things the way that I do, and that's why I love to share them, and I love to work with the female metabolism, especially middle-aged, menopause and post-menopause. I just believe that there's such valuable information out there for you. And when you apply the right strategies, the results you get are amazing. And all the things you're struggling with, the anxiety, the lack of sleep, all that stuff goes away. The belly fat, all that starts to go away when you apply the right solution. So I want to start with women that are still having their monthly cycles. Okay. And what's interesting about this is that you need to do two different things. The first 2 weeks of the monthly cycle, when you're in the follicular phase, you're in a higher estrogen dominant state, meaning estrogen is more active, it's higher. And so you need to do something different than when you're in the luteal phase, which is the second 2 weeks. And that phase is more of a progesterone dominant cycle, and things have to change. So the strategies you apply need to be different to get the results you deserve for the phase you're in. So let's start with the follicular phase, the first 2 weeks. This is from day 1 of menstruation for the next 14 days. You're in a high estrogen state. The body actually does much better on carbohydrates during those phases. So you should be eating more carbohydrates during the first 2 weeks of the cycle. You're more insulin sensitive. Estrogen creates insulin sensitivity, so eat more carbohydrates, they'll work well for you. You should also be doing more weightlifting. So like traditional weightlifting works really well, like doing exercises of sets to 8 to 15. and then take a rest. Do another set of 8 to 15, take a rest. And longer cardio sessions, like the longer runs, the more aggressive bike rides, where it's long duration, higher output for that long duration, not HIIT training, not intervals, just long, hard duration, actually works really well the first 2 weeks of the cycle. So that's what I like to teach women to do is in that cycle, eat more carbs, do more weightlifting, and more long drawn out cardio at a higher intensity level. So go for that, 45 to 90 minute run. It works well in those phases, okay? Now, the second 2 weeks, the luteal phase, everything begins to change a little bit, okay? Progesterone becomes more of the dominating hormone here. And now the metabolism becomes very susceptible to stress. So, for example, the long runs, that's too much of a cortisol response. You don't want to do those in the second phase. The second phase of the month, you want to do more the HIIT style training. You want high intensity intervals and short durations, like 30 minutes or less. Those are less stressful on the metabolism. You're also not as insulin sensitive on those phases, so you need to eat less carbohydrates during the second 2 weeks of the cycle. So this would be basically day 15 until menstruation starts again. So less carbs, HIIT training, and the other valuable tool in this phase is lots and lots of walking. Okay, walking does two wonderful things for the female metabolism. It brings the stress hormones down, and it makes you sensitive to insulin, which are the two areas that you're going to struggle with the second 2 weeks of your cycle. Okay, so first cycle, more carbohydrates, traditional weightlifting, and long drawn out cardio. The second 2 weeks, more the HIIT training. You can still do traditional weightlifting as well, but I just find HIIT training works so much better, and walking. So if there's a time constraint, I want a few workouts a week of HIIT training and walking every day and less carbohydrates. You just don't handle them as well, okay? Now, let's get to the more important sector, the sector that's more confusing, that doesn't really help as much, or doesn't help much, doesn't really have as much good information out there on. And that is menopause, postmenopause. So here's the interesting factor about once a woman hits menopause. What happens is estrogen and progesterone begin to come down. Now, when a woman is younger before menopause, estrogen and progesterone are high. So when stress hormones elevate, like cortisol and stuff, those are high. Testosterone stays at a certain level. What happens is when testosterone and cortisol are high in a woman, it tells her to lay body fat on the belly. But when a woman has optimal progesterone and estrogen levels, that negates that. It stops it from happening. That's why a younger woman doesn't have much of an issue with putting belly fat around the belly or putting fat around the belly. Now, it's interesting in a man's body, when the stress hormones are elevated and testosterone is high, it takes fat away from the belly. Now, as soon as a woman hits menopause and those estrogen and progesterone levels start dropping, well, the stress hormones stay high and the testosterone, it doesn't change, but now it's in a higher state. So now you're in a high stress state, high testosterone state, and now the estrogen and progesterone that tell the body not to lay the belly fat are gone, and it's like, bang, all of a sudden belly fat shows out of nowhere. It's like, I didn't do anything different. Now, here's the problem. What's the solution to that? Well, what my industry tells you to do is you got to work out harder. You got to eat less. They begin to apply stress-driving strategies to try to win, because on the male metabolism, that wins. I know so many of you have experienced this, right? You and your significant other, you do a diet, you do a workout program. He kills it, you get nowhere or even get worse. It's because it was all made for him. The research was done on him. So you have to have a new strategy, okay? Once you hit menopause and postmenopause and the estrogen and progesterone start dropping, you can't drive more of a stress response. It'll only make things worse. The only thing we can control in this realm is we got to reduce the amount of stress you're dealing with. The other thing that happens when you hit menopause and postmenopause, you're less sensitive to insulin, so carbohydrates can become damaged as well. So we have to control the cortisol and the insulin hormones to really get you the results you're looking for. Now, the answer is not to go work out more or work out harder. That's exactly wrong. The actual strategy we like to teach is eat less food, exercise less, de-stress, 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 okay? How you win this game is to work on reducing your stress loads. So I have a book out called The Metabolic Reset. That's the first place I'd like to start with women in menopause, post-menopause. I've had such incredible responses from that, hot flashes going away, like all these great tools or these great benefits from that, because we're stabilizing blood sugar, we're bringing the stress hormones down, we're cleaning out the liver, and we're improving gut health. All four of those areas help alleviate a lot of the symptoms being dealt with in menopause and post-menopause. So that's a great place to start. That is my eat less, exercise less plan. So I highly recommend that you start there, because it's worked so well over the years, just cleaning up all the problem areas. Then when it comes to exercise, I like women in menopause and post-menopause to walk every day. I believe that is the number one most powerful tool you have at that stage because, again, it brings the stress hormones down and it makes you more sensitive to insulin. The two big problem areas it alleviates. So you want to walk every day, okay? And then from there, if you want to do 1 or 2 harder workouts a week, you can. I prefer those harder workouts 2 times a week to be strength oriented, like muscle mass oriented. You're putting stress on the joints, like lifting weights or HIIT classes, just something with external resistance that are keeping your muscles strong to protect your bones, okay? So I like 2 days a week of hard workouts. Then I like 2 days a week of kind of moderate intense workouts, would be more like a moderate cardio session, right? For example, how I like to explain this is do cardio in a way you can breathe through your nose the whole time. Nose breathing, nasal breathing keeps the brain from stressing out. Mouth breathing triggers the brain you're stressed. So I like you to do cardio work as about 45 minutes, but in a state where you can nasal breathe. So it's harder than a walk, but it's not to the point where you need to breathe through your mouth. It's just all through your nose, in and out through the nose for the entire 45 minutes. Now, the first 10 or 15 minutes, it gets a little stressful. The brain starts freaking out. Like, why are you breathing through your nose? We're working out hard. But eventually, if you just stick with it and stay at an intensity level, you can handle that. The brain will calm down and you'll be able to go even harder staying in that nasal breathing state. But that's how we protect you from going into a stress state from exercise. So walk every day. 2 days a week of higher intensity training, preferably where there's resistance against the muscle to protect the joints. And then I like 2 days a week of more traditional things like aerobic activity, okay? Now, those can be spin classes periodically as well. And, like the boot camp stuff I love for joint integrity, for muscle building. Spin class we count towards the cardio side of things. But just make sure you're walking every day. And when you're doing those things, do the best you can when it's cardio-based to breathe through your nose. So if you're in a spin class, breathe through your nose as much as you can, okay? If 80% of that spin workout, you're breathing through your nose, we're controlling the stress response, okay? Yeah, spin gets a little tough. So just 80% of the time through the nose. If you got to breathe through your mouth 20% of the time, we're still winning that conditioning game, okay? And when it comes to nutrition for women in menopause, post-menopause, it has to be easy. If any of the strategies you're trying to apply are stressing you out, for example, a lot of women I work with, the idea of waking up and making a breakfast is stressful. So what I do with them is I just use a simple smoothie once they're done with the reset, right? They put a little bit of protein powder in there. They put something like chia seed in there. They put some vegetables in there and maybe a little bit of fruit and just blend that up, and that's their breakfast. Another thing I like with women is that oftentimes women wake up with anxiety when they're in menopause or postmenopause. Anxiety is a big issue in this stage. And we need to calm it down. It's because the progesterone levels are dropping and estrogen levels are dropping. So we have to compensate. So what I found is if you are waking up with anxiety, a smaller, like half a cup of oatmeal with that smoothie will help curb the stress response. Okay. When stress is elevated, leading to anxiousness, carbohydrates release a little bit of insulin and it calms that down. That's a really nice tool. The other thing I like to see women do at this stage is drink a lot of green tea because green tea has theanine, which calms your brain down. Okay, there's caffeine, which helps with that. So replace your coffee with green tea. And there's also a lot of nutrients that support your liver. We want to make sure your liver is working really well at this stage to help process everything. And then when it comes to the evening time, I'm a really big fan of using magnesium before bed. Magnesium and 2 to 4 ounces of tart cherry juice are just really powerful tools to help calm the body, calm the stress response, calm the anxiousness to sleep better. And I'll be real clear. For some women that deal with a lot of anxiousness before bed, just doing a couple shavings of really good dark chocolate and a little bit of red wine can save you, okay? So don't let people tell you those are bad. If you're craving dark chocolate and some red wine, it supplies antioxidants right to the uterus. I would use those. I use those a lot with the females that I work with, okay? Especially menopause and postmenopause. So if you're craving it, it's probably a sign that your body's liking it. And it's helping you calm down. It's helping you sleep. And that's what I care most about is calming down and getting the sleep, okay? So there you go. There's some basic guidelines on wherever you are in the female life cycle, the best strategies you can apply to get the results that you're looking for, okay? It is time to grasp and understand that the female metabolism is different than the male metabolism. We know that. We innately know that. But for some reason, research didn't get clear on that for the longest time. So we need to treat the female metabolism like the female metabolism, not like the male metabolism. And we need to treat the male metabolism like the male metabolism. So This is just a basic overview of what you can be doing as a female to get better response from your metabolism. If you're putting a lot of effort in and you're super committed, which most of you are, I know that about working with women, is that you are the ones, I have to be careful what I tell you to do because you will do it. Okay, men not like that. Women, very committed, very driven, especially as they get into menopause and postmenopause, and they start panicking because things aren't working and they're going backwards. So now you have really good strategy you can apply that's specific to you and your needs to get the results you are looking for, okay? I'm gonna leave you with one example of how powerful this is. I recently just helped a woman, she was 51, and it was preparing for her daughter's wedding. Now, we had 6 weeks to prepare for it. She was feeling bloated, overweight, like nothing was working. She was working out really hard. She was just very frustrated and kind of began to freak out because she wanted to fit in a good-looking dress. Totally get it. So we applied these strategies that I taught you about. She started off with the reset. In the very beginning, the first few weeks, all she did was walk. And as we got closer to the wedding, we started changing things. We started adding a little more food and a little more exercise, following the protocol that I gave you. I built it out for exactly how I shared it with you, right? 2 days a week of harder stuff, 2 days a week of the aerobic stuff, and walking every day. She got to her wedding. She lost 11 pounds in that 6 weeks. When's the last time you lost 11 pounds in 6 weeks? It was the fact that we brought her stress levels down. And this one was in real estate. And the real estate market right now in COVID it's just off the charts because of how low the interest rates are. So she's crazy busy as well. So I had a big fight on my hands of trying to beat the stress she was under to get here. But it worked really well. She actually, the first dress she's going to wear, it didn't even fit. It was too big. She sent me a picture of the dress she used. She looked phenomenal. Bloatation was down. Inflammation was down. All the stuff that she was dealing with was down by applying these strategies I just taught you. So remember, stress is your biggest enemy if you are at any stage, but especially if you're in menopause or postmenopause, as a female metabolism. Stress is what you have to beat, okay? A simple thing you can ask yourself to know is stress winning is, and I learned this from Dr. JT, it's one of my favorite things I've learned from him on this whole topic was, if your schmeck is out of check, your metabolism is stressed out. I don't care what's going on, you're going to lose. Schmeck is your sleep. Are you sleeping well or not? Hunger. If you're hungry all the time or not hungry at all, those are problems. Mood. If you're irritable, grumpy, short, that's a problem that your metabolism is not happy. If your energy's off, and if you're having weird cravings, those are all signs that the metabolism is overly stressed. You have to change something. In the female metabolism, it's typically we have to reduce stress if your schmeck is out of check, okay? So start asking yourself that, is my schmeck out of check? If the answer is yes, you've got to do things to bring your stress response down. Meditation, walking, napping, all great tools. And walking outside is the most powerful tool in regards to getting stress response down. Sit down and read a book. Just something that will bring down your stress levels throughout the day are way more important at this stage than more exercise, okay? I hope that helps.